I am your host, Jenny Wheeler. I am super excited to have you here, and I'm also super excited to be partnering with the library because it's the perfect thing. Because at the Family Table Collaborative, we're trying to move the needle on nutritional security, and we believe strongly that in order to actually create sustainable change, we need to do both prepared food and education. It's that whole give a man a fish, teach him to fish thing. So we believe you really have to do both. So I am super excited to have you with us tonight. I am the one in front of the camera. I could not be doing this without Lauren, who's at the library running it from behind the scenes, and my producer, Jim Lynch, who is also behind the camera, but he will be feeding me any and all of your questions. I am super excited to be as interactive with you guys as you want to be. At the end, we will open it up in the last kind of 5-10 minutes so that we can actually enjoy our tacos together. I'll be able to see you. We can eat and chat and talk. And that way, that's when you can talk to me completely live without a filter. However, in order to make sure I can answer everyone's questions, as Lauren said, we want to take as many questions as possible. Feel free to write them in the chat. If you don't want me to use your first name, because that's kind of my personality, is I'm going to talk to you directly, just write ANON, so Jim will know not to say your name to me when he reads me the question. If you just joined us, I mentioned it is Tuesday night, which is, right before hump day. I'm sure everyone's like, oh goodness, it's a long work day. We all have them. Benefit, it's spring, guys. That's so exciting. And it's nice out today. So I want to make sure everyone is ready to have some fun, make some awesome food, and just enjoy themselves. So I mentioned right before we started, if you want to go get some water, go get some iced coffee, go get something else if you want. I have two things that run through my veins constantly: iced coffee. Some people actually think I have that instead of blood in my system because, that's sometimes what it takes to do long hours. And my mug is from the Fishermen's Alliance, which is so exciting because we partner with them, get a lot of seafood from them. And we're super lucky on Cape Cod to have such an amazing local resource as the fishing community. So the Fishermen's Alliance is near and dear to my heart. So I figured since we're doing fish tacos, it was a good night to roll out my Fishermen's Alliance mug. And then the other one, of course, we're making fish tacos. So a little bit of white wine is a nice addition. And this is my lovely Cape Cod wine glass given to me by Sunny Feldman and the Cape Cod Realtors Association. So I want you to take a couple of seconds. If you want, get yourself situated. We're planning on having a lot of fun tonight. And I think we're ready to go. All right. Any questions before we begin? Anybody? All right, well, let's get going then. So as I mentioned in the ingredient list, I went with mahi-mahi. Here's the thing, mahi-mahi is my favorite fish for tacos. However, you can't get it locally usually fresh. So in the off season, I often get it at either a Trader Joe's. You can get it frozen. Of course, I use Restaurant Depot because of Riverway and everything we do. However, any white fish will do. And I will usually choose local over anything else. So it doesn't matter any of the white fishes. You don't want to go with a thin fish. You want to go with kind of a little bit of a thicker fish. So this is mahi-mahi. You can actually see it has a little bit of weight to it. But it's a nice light white flaky fish. So it makes it nice and easy to cook. So just from a timing perspective, to make sure we get everything done kind of around the same time, we're going to start actually with the rice because fish doesn't take an overabundant amount of time to cook. So we're going to start with the rice. You can use any rice. And I took out a couple of options because I like to do this. Everybody says to me, or a lot of people say, cooking is a little scary. I get so intimidated. I'm never sure what goes together. Here is the deal. I understand that it can be scary to some people, but let that go because there isn't just one way to do anything. You can actually make a whole abundance of choices. And what tastes great to me might not taste great to you. So you have to learn what tastes good to you. Learn to be a little bit adventurous with spice. Learn to try new foods or be open. And the other thing is, sometimes these changes are also predicated by health issues. So as a lot of us are getting older, things that maybe you could eat before or spices you could eat, either you like now and you didn't like them before, or your body can't tolerate them now, whereas they could before. So just be open and recognize that it isn't one way. There's not just one right answer. So with that in mind, I took out, because I had said this was designed to feed 2 people, I took out 3/4 of a cup of rice and just put it here. I'm using jasmine rice. You can use anything. You can use basmati, you can use jasmine, you can use whatever rice you have, brown rice. But if you're trying to cut down on starch, rice is gluten-free, so you don't have an issue with that. But if you're trying to cut down on starch, you can do something like this, which is the smoky Peruvian style red lentils. This is a plant-based protein. It acts a lot like beans would, like, because we're doing rice and beans, you could just do something like this instead, and it will bring the same amount of heartiness to your meal. I also brought out, because I think I had mentioned like spicy black beans or pinto beans, and wouldn't you know, I didn't have either in my pantry. And that's just the way it rolls sometimes. And I'm the one that wrote the recipe. So kids, this happens to everybody. So I have an organic bean trio that I took out of my pantry that I was planning on using. But also I have these Cuban black beans, which are also delicious. And they're already cooked, so it makes it super easy. And again, it's a time saver. So that's one of those options. Again, another option with rice, you have cauliflower rice. So if you don't want the starch, you can go with cauliflower rice and mix beans in with that and go from there. So again, there's no one right way to do something. So it's all about what's good for you, what's good for your family, what tastes good, and we can go from there. So let's start with the rice. Rule of thumb is usually it's 1 part rice to the 2 parts water. You can either use, if you're dairy free, you can use oil. And if you're not and you like the flavor, you can use butter. If you're vegetarian, you can use a veggie stock or a vegetable bouillon. If you're not, I traditionally use chicken. This is better than bouillon, which is my favorite bouillon. This is the chicken, but again, you can use anything you want. It depends on your diet and what works for you. So let's get started. So I told you 2 people, so we're gonna go with, I told you we had, I had took out 3/4 of a cup of rice. So what you're gonna do is you need 1.5 cups of water. So we're just gonna get this started because the rice is actually gonna take longer to cook than the fish. So we need 1.5 cups of water. And then we're just gonna get this, put it on the stove, and we're gonna put it on high because our whole objective is to get it to boil. And then just to keep it so that it's dairy free, not that the whole meal will be, because I'm actually gonna use sour cream, I'm actually gonna put a touch of avocado oil in the rice. You can use olive oil, you can use avocado oil, you can use whatever oil you have available. I cook most often with Gustari oils because they're partnered with the collaborative. And I use their cilantro and red onion oil on my fish. But you can use any oil. So whether it's the rice or whether it's the fish, you can cook with any oil. Some olive oils have a more distinguishable flavor to them that doesn't always complement fish. Sometimes it can overpower the flavor. If it's a very lightweight fish, a traditional olive oil can sometimes overpower it. So that would be the only thing I said. But again, go back to rule 1. There are not any tried and true rules unless really you're baking, and then it can go very wrong. Just ask. I don't bake things very often. I don't have any sweet tooth, and I'm really terrible at following rules. So this is why I cook instead of bake, and it's where I'm my most creative. So I'm giving you a minute. Just get the water 1.5 cups of water. And then once it starts boiling, 1.5 cups of water, we're gonna add a little bit of oil or butter. And then once it starts boiling, we're gonna put in the rice. We're gonna reduce it to a really low rolling boil, and we're gonna cover it, and then we're gonna cook it for 15 minutes, and then we'll check on it. So while that's happening, let's get started with making the slaw. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move things over a little bit so that you guys can see me a little more easily. And we're gonna make the slaw first, just because I think it actually tastes a little bit better if it sits for just a little bit so it can marinate. Anybody who knows me knows I think the secret ingredient is always love. It's what I cook with the most. And so I made sure that I had that out for you. All right, so slaw. Where'd the bowl go? There it is. Okay, so I bring joy. Jenny's Joy is the name of my company. Hopefully my cooking brings you joy. I know it brings me joy. And the reason cooking brings so much joy is because I love to see the joy on other people's faces when they're enjoying a good meal. Food is a convener. It brings people together. And that doesn't matter if it's work, at school, at home. I love getting back to those family style meals, sitting down, eating together. It makes such a difference. So at the end of the day, food should bring immense joy. So I'm going to use my joy bowl for the slaw. Now, I got this. You're going to say that's a huge bag, and it is, because normally I cook in abundance. So this bag is at BJ's. You can get slaw, pre-cut slaw bags almost anywhere. I personally don't encourage broccoli slaw for fish tacos because broccoli is something that has such a strong flavor. To me, it overpowers the fish. However, if broccoli is your thing, have at it, because I do like broccoli slaw, just not usually with fish tacos. So you can make as much as you want. I really like slaw on my tacos. And I should have started with this. First thing you do before you're cooking, and of course I did it before I came on camera, is wash your hands. You want to make sure you wash your hands before you do anything. When I'm in my kitchen, anything that's raw, I'm actually using gloves for. Since I'm home, I'm not doing that. But if I was cooking for a lot of people, or if I was cooking at my kitchen, anytime you're cooking with something that's going to be served raw, not cooked, you use gloves. So for you guys, just wash your hands. Okay, so let's get out a cutting board. Oh, my water is boiling. I don't know if anybody else's water is boiling, but mine is. So I'm going to pour in the rice. I'm going to give it a little stir just to make sure it's not sticking to the bottom or anything. And then I'm going to turn it down to kind of the low side of medium high. And then I'm going to cover it. And we're going to let it alone for a couple of minutes. All right. I'm going to take my cutting board and, oh, I forgot something. See, even I forget things. So with the rice, just to give it a little bit of flavor, and of course I can't open this. This is like, wait till you see that. Oh, got it. Yay. All right. I'm going to take a half a teaspoon. I'm not measuring it exact. I'm just doing a half a teaspoon, and I'm stirring it into the rice. If you don't have bouillon, that's okay. All you need to do, you can use a little bit of, stock, chicken stock, or if you don't and you just have water, you can add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then we can spice it to taste later. It doesn't require bouillon, it just adds a little depth of flavor. So now that that's going, I have the slaw mix. You can do it with just this. I happen to really love red onion in my slaw. So I just picked up a little bit of red onion. It also adds a little bit of extra color. Of course, you can see in the slaw, we've got the carrots, we've got cabbage, which by the way is really good for digestion. We've got red cabbage and green cabbage and carrots. So I'm just going to cut up a little bit of red onion. I like it kind of fine diced. And you just want it little pieces because you don't want it to overwhelm anything. Just want little pieces. And it's as much or as little. And like I said, you don't have to add it. You can go without it. I just happen to really like it. So I'll just add a little bit to it. And then where do we go from there? So this is a really, really basic slaw. And this is why I wanted to do this meal, because this start to finish can actually be done in about 20 minutes if you're ready to go. We gave it an hour to make sure that we could interact, that I could go nice and slow, walk you guys through everything. But even on a cook time for me, it's not even going to be 45 minutes, even doing all of those other steps. So at home, once we send you this recipe, this is a basic 20-25 minutes tops. You're using really fresh ingredients, really easy thing to do. And it's so tasty. Fish tacos, which by the way, can be chicken or they can be vegetable, right? You can make it vegetarian, you can make it vegan, you can make this gluten-free, you can make it low starch, low carb. You can do anything you want, but fish tacos are my favorite. So I went with that. However, if you don't want fish tacos and you wanted to go vegetarian or vegan, I picked up a 3-pepper blend. You can use regular peppers right from the store. And by the way, they're not in season right this second locally, but peppers are grown right here on Cape Cod. You would be amazed at how many fresh vegetables are grown right here. So things like the carrots and the cabbages and stuff like that, I normally get right from the farms, which is such a treat. We have no idea how lucky we are that so much grows right here on Cape Cod. So we've got our rice started. We're in our slaw. We've got the slaw in the bowl ready to go. So where do we go from here? So I do something real easy. I use a little bit. I wanted to show you, I took a tiny bit out. I don't even think it's half a teaspoon, to be perfectly honest. That depends how much you use, depends on how much sweet you like in your slaw. I'm not a huge sweet person at all. I just want to show you, again, we have local honey here on Cape Cod. So when you see this, this is honeycomb from a friend of mine, from her bees. I love to use this. I took a little bit out, put it in a bowl. We're going to use a little vinegar. The vinegar is going to break down the honey a little bit. So what I do is I put my honey in a separate bowl, and then I use apple cider vinegar. It's normal for it to have actually a little bit on the bottom. Now, I'm going to start, and again, vinegar is one of those things that is to taste. Everybody's different. So if you like it a little bit vinegary, you're going to use a little more. If you like it a little less, you're going to use a little less. But right this second, we're going to start with a teaspoon of vinegar. And I probably did a little over a teaspoon. I kind of touched over the teaspoon. But that's right in the honey. So I'm mixing it right in with the honey. And then I'm just going to use a little fork. And I'm going to mix that honey in so that it starts to dissolve. And you're not seeing it clump quite as much. You might get a little bit. The other thing is, if your honey is hard, you can stick it in the microwave for like 5 seconds is really all it takes. I don't like to microwave things unless I absolutely have to, which is why I'm mixing this in here, because the vinegar naturally will break down the honey a little bit. It will help liquefy it. So really basic. And then the other thing, and this is because this is a fun story. So the Family Table Collaborative, for any of you, I hope all of you have been to visit us. It's at the old Riverway. Riverway is 80 years old, or almost 80 years old, maybe 80 years old next year. And it is such an amazing building that we've been able to utilize, and are trying to purchase in order to have it be a building that can help the community for decades to come, which is really exciting. Well, the fun part is the Riverway was started by the Pizakis family. And the Pizakis owned the restaurant from, I think it was 1943 to 2004. I might be off by a year or two. And along the way, they started the Riverway Cape Cod salad dressing. And it's so funny that this exists and is so well known. It became Cape Cod's version of Ken's salad dressing, basically. And so when I found out about this, we found out that the Pizakis family still makes this dressing. How cool is that? So we reached out to them, and Rosetto Pizakis, who's the son of the original founder of Riverway, actually donated 10 cases of the dressing to us for us to sell in our makers market to help support the collaborative's mission of increasing nutritional security and ending hunger on Cape Cod. So it is the perfect thing to use in the slaw. So if you don't have it, you can work around it. You can, like I said, you might need to add either a little bit more honey, a little bit more vinegar, but I'm going to add a little bit of the Riverway dressing. I'm going to add about a tablespoon. And again, I'm just going to mix it up a little bit with that honey and that vinegar, so we get a nice dressing for the slaw. And then I like to add a little bit of adobo. Adobo is a kind of a generic spice. I would say just a little, a little sprinkle. It's probably, I know some measuring spoons have like pinch or things like that on it. It's like that. It's not even a quarter of a teaspoon. But we mix it in. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pour it over the slaw. And we're going to do this so that the slaw can marinate a little bit, because it tastes really good when you marinate it a little bit. I'm not sure I made completely enough dressing for the slaw. I just took out, this bowl is a little bigger, but I can always add a little more in. But like I said, I like slaw to have a little bit of zip to it. It's got great crunch. It adds a lot to your tacos. So for me, it's fun. And it adds great color too. And like I said, cabbage is great for digestion. So it hits all my hot spots. So what we're gonna do, because when you're cooking, quality control. Yes.
Jenny, we have a question.
Yes, Jen.
Can you buy the Riverway dressing anywhere other than the Riverway?
Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, you can buy it not only at our place, but you can also buy it at Ring Brothers. I know Ring Brothers has it. I'm not sure of any other. I haven't seen it at other stores locally, but Ring Brothers definitely carries it. So you definitely can. Great question. Anything else, or are we good? All right, so what I was saying is the great thing about cooking is you must have to do quality control, because again, it has to suit your palate. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take a little spoon or a fork or whatever is convenient. And once it's all mixed up, we're gonna taste it. I love slaw. So yummy. So if you think it's too tart, you can add a little bit of extra honey. If you think it's too sweet, add a little bit of extra vinegar. You can, and like I said, it's totally up to you. Okay. So now we're going to set the slaw aside. And we're going to move on. Well, let's check our rice, shall we? My rice is looking pretty good. It's absorbed most of the water. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to taste it to see how firm it is. Some people like their rice a little bit more al dente, which is a little firmer. Some people like it a little bit softer. Again, no right answer. Mine's a touch al dente, which I like. It has very little, I don't see any moisture down the bottom, and it's still a little al dente. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to add just a scooch. That's a very precise measurement, by the way, a scooch. Just a scooch of water. And then I'm going to add in the beans. And because I happen to have my Cuban black beans, I'm going to use these. But if I didn't, I mentioned in the ingredient list, I had an organic bean trio. I mentioned either black beans or what I traditionally use, or pinto beans. Really, they're just kind of different cultural centers are used for different dishes. But because I have this, now this has some liquid in it as well. So that's going to kind of finish it up. This, because it has a sauce in it, is going to change the color slightly of the rice. Not too much because it's not too thick. But like I said, I'm mixing this in just like that. And then I'm going to turn it down a touch more, down to medium. And I'm going to cover it, and we're going to cook it off for like 5 more minutes. All right. So then let's move on to the main course. We have, once we get the fish on, we have a couple of other options. Like I said, this comes with a couple of options. If you're using peppers, we want to either use, we can use frozen, make it easy. Again, time matters, we know this, but fresh food is really important. So we want to make sure you're having fresh, healthy food. Frozen is just about, it's just less than fresh picked off the vine. A lot of stuff gets frozen faster than it makes it to the grocery store. So you can use frozen. You can also cut up. I really like red, yellow, green. You can cut up some onions and peppers if you want to use that. I also took out some Mexican street corn. This is really easy. It's from Trader Joe's. And I'm going to put a little bit of this in one of my skillets. Again, whatever you have, whatever you want to use is totally good. So if you decided to do any of the extra items, you certainly can do that. If you didn't, the rice and beans, the fish and the slaw is going to be perfection. I'm going to use a little bit of my oil in the pan. Throw in a little bit of this. And get that cooking. All right, so the fish, the star of the show, the main ingredient. So as I mentioned, this is mahi-mahi. I often go with a local cod, anything that's a white fish that you can get nice and fresh. I got this from Restaurant Depot, and because I had been using it, I wanted to use it here. But like I said, you can use it, any type of fresh white fish works. All right, so this is super easy. You can either use, I have a couple of them, and I wanted to show you both. This is a classic seasoning. It has lime, and it has a little bit of paprika. This is a chili lime seasoning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my adobo. I'm going to sprinkle it on the fish. Let me see that. I'm sure you can see. Sprinkle it on the fish. And I'm going to do it on both sides. With a nice little, it's not like you have to coat it. Now, a lot of people are used to fried fish with fish tacos, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't eat a ton of fried food, which is why I don't fry my fish I'm going to pan fry it, but I don't often coat my fish with breading. I also, Jenny's Joy originally was a gluten-free food brand. My dad and my sister have to be gluten-free. So I try to keep things gluten-free when possible. That's why you'll see most of my soups are gluten-free. I usually will give gluten-free options at every chance I get. So this is the chili lime seasoning. I am going right over one side, and then I'm going to turn that over. And I'm going right over the other side. And that's that. We're going to let that sit there for just 1 minute. Anytime you deal with raw fish or raw meat or seafood or anything, I suggest you wash your hands. You don't really want to transfer any possible kind of And you really just don't want to transfer anything. So I'm gonna let that sit for a second. I'm coming over to my fry pan. I'm gonna turn it on high. I'm gonna go ahead and now that I wash my hands, I can't open anything. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on high. I'm gonna put oil in the pan. Like I said, my favorite is this cilantro. I love cilantro, not everybody does. Cilantro and red onion, olive oil. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of avocado oil. You want not a ton of oil at all, but you do want to make sure you kind of coat the pan. So once it gets warm, you want to swish it around. And you just want to make sure you have oil that coats the bottom of the pan. All right, we're going to give that a quick minute. We're going to stir the slaw. Just make sure it's all getting marinated in that yummy dressing that we just created. Really simple, really easy. And then we're going to do one last thing before we cook off the fish. We are going to make the lime crema. So I'm going to take this. This is kind of a hack. So it's not ever going to get easier than this. There are all different ways that you can make lime crema. I am using a lactose-free sour cream. Any sour cream will do. And there are many options now. They didn't used to be, but for dairy-free sour creams that are also pretty good. For this, we are going to add, if you have fresh lime, you can have that. The trick on limes, fresh limes, is you want to roll them first to kind of get some of that juice to let go. I'm going to go ahead and use this lime. I'm going to add about a teaspoon. So I went with about a quarter of a cup of the sour cream, a teaspoon of the lime, and then we're going to take that chili lime seasoning and we're just going to sprinkle it probably half a teaspoon or so into that. All right, my pan is hot, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. My corn is starting to cook off, so I'm just going to give that a stir. And I'm going to take this off for a quick second because it's hot. I want it hot, but I don't want it to smoke. I'm going to turn on the fan for a quick second because I let it smoke. Okay, so going back to our lime crema, we're just going to take this, we're going to mix it up. Mix it up. Now, I got a lot of juice that squeezed out of my sour cream when I did it, which is why it's a little bit thinner than I had planned on. But it's okay because I can add a little more sour cream if I need to. There is, again, no right. No, I think it's actually going to be a fine consistency. If you're getting any lumps, you can use a fork. That'll break those up. And you're going to mix that up. And then you're going to do quality control. So here's the thing. Again, no right or wrong. I'm going to add a little bit more chili lime to mine. I like it a little zesty. Mix it back up. And like I said, this adds a nice bit of pop to your fish tacos. So whether you're doing peppers and onions, whether you're doing corn, rice, this adds just that little bit of extra oomph to it. Nice. Okay. So I'm coming back here. I'm going to turn off my rice and let it sit for a minute. And now I'm going to add the fish to the hot oil. You should hear it sizzle. Whenever you're cooking fish, you should be able to hear that sizzle. Now, fish doesn't take very long. This is a little bit, thicker, so it's going to cook for a couple of minutes on each side. Fish is well done at 145 degrees. Not everyone has little thermometers, kind of sitting around. I do, and I can check mine. It's in my arm pocket. However, well done on fish is 145 degrees. So it takes a couple of minutes. We just let it, a couple minutes each side. So I'm gonna guess that we're at about 3 minutes each side for this fish with the thickness that I'm looking at. To test it though, just break a little piece off. If it flakes, it's done. You don't want it. The biggest issue with seafood is most times people really overcook it. Seafood is more delicate than most things. You don't need to cook it a whole long time. And you're gonna see that with this fish, just like everything else. Now is a good opportunity if you were making the peppers and onions to give those a stir. Make sure that a nice sear going. If they're cooked at this point in time, just turn them off, let them sit for a minute. Corn, same thing. I'm going to give it a little mix. And now is when we also want to taste our rice. So we're mixing with the corn. I could throw a couple peppers and onions in here just so we've got everybody's options. Because mine are frozen, they're not going to take very long because they're really actually already a little cooked. I'll throw those in there just so that we can have a couple of those too. And now, here's the thing, you've made everything. You've made everything we're making. And now it's just going to be putting it together. And that's why I said it doesn't take very long to get the whole thing done. I'm obviously talking to you guys, so it's going to take me a little longer because it's more fun for me to cook with people. So getting to cook with all of you is kind of fun. Normally, I don't have a ton of people cooking with me in my kitchen. So this is fun. All right. So we got that going, Let's taste our rice. Again, it's turned off. It's just sitting, letting it sit for a minute. So good. So here's where it's up to you guys. You can add a little bit of chili lime seasoning. I have enough, I think, in my other things. You can add a little bit of adobo if you're light on flavor. You can add a little bit of that. I don't tend to add salt to very much, but I do keep salt out so I can add a pinch just in case I need to. But my rice is just about perfect, so I'm pretty good with where it is. But test it out. And again, there's not a right or a wrong. It's really up to whatever your flavor palette is. All right, so I'm going to turn my fish over. I'm just circling, kind of getting that oil and just moving it around a little bit. Like I said, I don't use a ton of oil, but I do use a little bit just to make sure that the fish doesn't stick to the pan. My favorite pans to cook in are cast iron skillets. You see it here. I brought them recently. I brought most of my cast iron skillets to Riverway because I was cooking a couple of things that I wanted to use those as the main dish for, which is why you see this one here. But normally it's cast iron skillets for me. They're heavy though, so just be aware. Cast iron skillets are amazing to cook with. They, basically to me, it's the best cooking device, but they are very heavy and you have to make sure that they're seasoned. You actually don't use soap and water with them. You rinse them, you wipe them out, and actually you keep them coated with a little bit of oil just to make sure that the pan stays seasoned. But it's a beautiful cooking device. And they come in all different sizes. So the best part is cast iron skillets can go right from your stovetop into your oven to finish things. If you're going to do like a frittata or anything like that, you can start it here, move it right into the oven. It's a great cooking tool. All right, we're cooking off our fish. Everyone has tasted their rice, made sure that's nice and yummy. We can go back. You're gonna see my bowl looked really full before we put the dressing on it. Now that we put the dressing on it, I've stirred it a couple of times, made sure the marinade, you can see how much less it looks like I have. So slaw shrinks a little bit because you know how lime cooks seafood or citrus cooks seafood. When you do this to cabbage, it also kind of does the same thing. It shrinks it a little bit by almost cooking it a little. So you can see it was almost overflowing when I started, and now we're down to like 2/3. So we have our slaw. You go back if you want to taste your lime crema, you can taste that. Our fish is cooking away. We have our rice done. If you cooked anything else, your peppers, your corn, that's all done. And now all we have to do is enjoy. So I'm gonna take a sip of my wine. I'm gonna see, are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Are we still good? Awesome. I should have said this at the beginning. If I ever go too fast or anything like that, please always slow me down. I try to make sure I take plenty of time to walk you through all the options and what you can do and all of that stuff. So I can see the side of my fish. I don't know, Jim, if you can see this, but the side of the fish that was a little bit translucent earlier is getting nice and white. That's a good indication that it's cooking up nicely. You can see it's getting nice and opaque, nice and white over there. So I'm going to say probably about 1 more minute on the fish. I have everything else turned off, and we're going to get ready to eat some tacos. It's the best part of cooking, guys. So, as I mentioned earlier, you can use gluten-free wraps. You can make a taco salad and not use any bread or anything like that. At my commercial kitchen, I have a gas stove. Gas is definitely my preference. But here, as you can see, I have an electric stove. Kind of dated modern. So, but you know what? We use what we have. We use what we have. So if I was at the kitchen, I would actually put these on an open flame, turn them over just for a couple of seconds to get them heated up. But here, I'm not going to. You can throw them in a toaster for just a couple of seconds to get them a little bit warm, if that's your preference. But these are really fresh, really soft, so I don't feel the need. Now, like I said before, to check your fish, 145 is well done. You can check it if you have a thermometer. But another way to check it is also just break it off. So this isn't quite done. You can see I have a little bit of juice in the middle. And it's not breaking quite easily. So I'm gonna let it cook for another minute or so. If your fish is thinner, it's likely totally done. All right. So the best part is always putting it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut these lengths just because these are thick. I'm going to cut them in half. They are just about there. Because that's a pretty thick fish for fish tacos. They are a huge piece. I'll just seal the inside a hair. Okay. So then we have our plate. Get a nice little tortilla or whatever it is that you're choosing to use. You can put anything you want in your tacos. So you can put the rice and beans on the side, or you can put it in it. For today, I'm going to fold over the tortilla a little bit, and I'm going to put my rice and beans on the side. There's no right or wrong to how much you use. For some people, a little dab will do you. And for others, they love rice and beans. So next up, I'm going to take a little bit of corn and I'm going to put it at the bottom. Sometimes I put it on the side. I'm like an everything kitchen sink taco maker. So I'll put a little bit of my peppers as well. Again, whatever you have available to you is what you use, and there's no right or wrong. So I'm just putting a little bit in the bottom. Then I'm going for the slaw. I like the slaw. I like to put the fish on the top and then put the lime crema over it. I'm going to put that slaw right across the bottom of my tortilla. Fork is the wrong thing for me to use for this. There we go. I like a decent amount of slaw. Again, that's totally up to you. I'm coming back here. I'm going in for a piece of my fish. I'm going to drop that piece of fish right there. Some people like cheese. You can throw some cheese on it if you want. I'm a lime crema girl. So this is the best, easiest hack on lime crema ever. I take a nice solid dollop. You can put it right across the top. If you have fresh cilantro, you can put fresh cilantro on it. And there you go. You have fresh fish tacos made right in your own house in what would be less than 25 minutes, start to finish. But today we got to do it together. So here's the best part. I'm going to give you a minute to make sure you put your fish tacos together, that you have them, because I really want us to all get to take a bite together. Because, you know, that's the fun part of cooking. It's nice and social. It's great to be able to sit and enjoy your food. Fresh food makes your body run much better. It improves your physical health, your mental health. And at the end of the day, I always tell, like when I'm teaching little people, I say, eat the rainbow, eat the rainbow. So when you look on this, you see all the different colors in the slaw, or whether you have the peppers, or whether you have corn, or whatever it is. And then rice and beans make a complete protein. So you're having a nice balanced meal here. So again, good food makes you feel good. I have a question.
So Alyssa says, I hope you do more of these. Thank you, Jenny. I'm excited to make this, and I'm not intimidated to try.
Yay, Celissa!
I love how you explain the different ways to make the dish too. That looks beautiful and yummy. So nice that it doesn't take long to create a wonderful meal.
Oh, and it doesn't. And this is the thing, guys. That's what I want to make sure everybody realizes. You can have really good food and it doesn't have to take a long time. Now, here's the thing. It would have taken us no longer to make a couple of extra vegetables, to have this refrigerated in your fridge for tomorrow. It makes great leftovers. Like I said, you can use it in tortillas. You can put it on a salad. And the number one reason people eat stuff that doesn't make them feel good is convenience. It's time. So if we create things that you can have in your fridge that's tasty, that you want to eat, it will limit how much of what I like to call the crap food that we eat. And we've all done it. We're all guilty of it. We have all stopped and done the drive-thrus. We all are too tired. Me too. I come home sometimes from cooking and I am lucky if I eat cheese and crackers and maybe a glass of wine. But I try really hard not to do that. Not because it isn't fast and easy, but because really at the end of the day, it's not going to make me feel good. And that's what we want to do. Food should bring us joy, but it should also make our bodies feel good. So I'm hoping I've given you all enough time. We're coming to the conclusion of our hour. So the best possible thing I can think of is, let's try it. All right, are you ready? Is everyone ready? I hope you're ready. All right, I'm going in. Oh, good. Fish tacos are one of my favorite things. So tasty. I hope you have all gotten a little bit of confidence. I hope you have had some fun. I hope you learned some things. I hope you want to do it again. Celissa, thank you for the compliment. I am super happy to be here partnering with the library on behalf of the Family Table Collaborative. We are here for the community. We do this for you guys and with you guys, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. And I can't wait to see you back here. Last minute, any questions? We can take the mics off if we want, if anybody wants to say hello, and then we can wrap it up. We're all done. And you get to go enjoy your whole meal. We have mics or no? No. Okay. Oh, too many. Okay. Guys, thank you again. It was so much fun cooking with you. I love having you in my kitchen. Thank you for bringing me into yours. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you come back again. So thank you to Lauren and the Hyannis Public Library for bringing us in. The Family Table Collaborative is proud and honored to have you as one of our most amazing community partners. And thank you again to all of you for joining us this evening. I'm Jenny Wheeler. I will see you soon. And don't forget, love is always our secret ingredient.